This case should never have come to trial.
I don't think it's fair to call my clients frauds. Because one time I turned into a dog and they helped me. Thank you.
Your Honor, we would like to withdraw our plea of not guilty and enter a plea of guilty.
This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery, of a sham, of a mockery, of a travesty, of two mockeries, of a sham.
If we are to have faith in justice, we need only to believe in ourselves.
And the truth shall set you free!
How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Oh, guilty, but with a real good excuse.
I think the truth will come forth.
You can't handle the truth!
Hello, everybody. Travis Holtrey from Foreman, Watson, Holtrey coming to you today on a Friday from the high-rise at 530 Frederica Street, Owensboro, Kentucky. And it is time for Law Lite, version 1.4. Everybody ready today, Peach?
I am.
Oh, there's just the two of us.
Just us.
Just the two of us. And today, hey, it is one of your favorite times of the year, right?
It is,
it's
October.
Okay, we are coming up on Halloween, right?
Yes.
And, yeah. Okay, so today we're gonna kind of go in a couple of directions. And you asked me a question a couple weeks ago. You were like, hey, you got any like bad stories and things like that? And because we're gonna have this Halloween podcast edition, and I was like, let me give some thought to that. And we've discussed a couple things, and so we're gonna head off that direction. Before we do anything you need to get off your chest there, Pete? You look like you got something over there you're looking at, or are you already getting ready for the expert question?
Oh, I'm already. I was ready. I was ready 4 weeks ago
for the expert question.
For the expert question.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
that's all you got over there in all your papers is a question.
Right.
Okay.
Right. But this one is more aimed at the season.
Oh, good. I don't know if I've got one of those. I've been coming up with mine on the fly. So we will we'll see what comes up when we get to but hey, we got a lot of other good stuff to talk about before we get to the expert question, okay? So I'm gonna talk to you today about being a new lawyer. We've talked about the rookie season. We talked about you in Chapel.
Yeah, my horror story was last week.
Right. And I am going to kind of tell you a story about the day I found out I passed the Kentucky bar exam. Okay?
Okay.
All right, so I had a job here in Owensboro waiting for me if I passed the Kentucky bar exam. And so I was really nervous, when they were going to issue the results and that kind of thing. And it's a big day for a young lawyer because, you got your whole career set out. You've got your first job in place. And mine was with an attorney. We were going to be litigating cases right out of the box. In fact, I tried my very first jury trial only 10 days after I got sworn in, which has to be close to a record, and I tried it against a great lawyer here in town. He's retired, Max Hartz. God bless him. He was a heck of a lawyer, taught me a lot by being on the other side of cases.
Now, was that scary in itself?
It was. The first time he objected, I think I jumped 2 feet off the ground. I was like, oh my God, what did I do? But anyway, we'll get to that stuff in other episodes. But I was a brand new baby lawyer, man. And
okay.
The big thing is you have your name plate, and you get business cards, all right? And I already had my business cards made up in anticipation of passing the bar, and it said attorney at law right there under my name. And so, the news came out that I had passed the bar exam, and so, everybody that was kind of close to me wanted to celebrate that day, and it just so happened that information came out on a Friday, okay? So we decided we were going to go out and celebrate at a really swinging place called Applebee's. All right, so me and people in our office, we went there and had some drinks and some food, and boy, I was toting my business cards. All right, because you never know where the first case is going to come from and who you need to hand that card.
You're just passing them out to servers and
yeah, right. That's exactly right.
The people sitting at the bar at Applebee's are like, you might need this eventually.
Little did I know that 15 years later, I'd accept the position of a managing partner and be director of all the marketing that goes on. But
right.
I guess that was preparing me for that moment. Anyhow, you know how a lot of those kind of evenings go. You go from one establishment to another, and the one you end up at is like the last place in town that's open, and it has all different walks of life, and probably just not a good place to be.
I'm a boring person. I've heard of those types of evenings, but
let me assure you.
I went right into the married life. So.
Okay, well, let me assure you that that is the way a lot of these evenings goes. The drinks get stronger. your mind becomes a little foggier, and just bad decisions are made. Okay,
Right.
and I'm celebrating a pretty big day in my life, and so just not making the best of best choices. Okay. So we end up, our little posse ends up over at this place. I don't even think it's I could take you right to where it is. It's over off West 2nd Street, but it was called McDuffie's. All right?
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Oh, so you've been there, right?
I have not been there,
PJ,
but
have you been to McDuffie's?
I've never been. I remember I've had friends who talked about going there.
Okay, well,
but I had never been there.
Like, if I found out that my daughters were hanging out at McDuffie's, like if it was open still, I would blow a gasket. It was just
right.
Okay.
There's been 2 or 3 other places in that same location, but
that should tell you something.
Yeah.
So the lights are dim, the room is spinning, and I needed to be home in bed. All right, but I wasn't. I was on the dance floor. And let's just say that there was a person on the dance floor who, I was dancing with in a manner that probably would not be a way I would dance in front of my grandma, okay? Because it just wouldn't be honoring.
Right.
Yeah, you got where I'm going with this?
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
There has been a movie named after the method of dancing that I was engaging in. Got me?
Pootie Tang.
No. Okay, so anyhow, let's...
It's a great movie if you haven't seen it. But anyway, moving on.
So I'm dancing, and I don't know why. I mean, she didn't talk to me. She didn't ask me any questions. Nothing. But I felt inclined to whip out the business card.
You were excited.
I pulled the card. I played the card, and I gave it to her. And I said, "Hey, baby, you ever need a lawyer?" And gave her my business card.
Did you write your number on the
card?
No,
my business number was on there, but not my cell.
Okay. I didn't know if you flipped it over on the back.
Before cell phones, so no.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, we still had landlines.
You might have had the big, the Nokia.
I think I may have had a bag phone or something like that. So, anyhow, I go home, sleep it off, and sure enough, I get sworn in, and 2 days after I get sworn in, we had these court-appointed cases at the time. Your name was on a list, and you would get cases appointed to you from the local court. And there's the kind of cases you'd get appointed on are 2 kinds: warning order cases, where your job was to find somebody and give them notice about the lawsuit, or you were assigned to represent a child or a parent in a dependency, neglect, or abuse case. And those are very serious. It means there's some allegation that a child's being neglected or abused in some fashion. So I get appointed, and I'm representing a mother in a dependency, neglect, and abuse case. And so when you get this in the mail, and I open it up, I'm like, oh, okay. So I tell my assistant, her name was Kelly. I said, Kelly, I was like, not the same Kelly we have here. It was another Kelly. I said, Kelly, would you do me a favor, and would you get her set up to come in and meet with me? And so she does. The day rolls around where her appointment's scheduled, and so I walk out into the lobby, and I open the door, in the waiting room there. I open the door, and I look, and PJ, it is the girl from McDuffie's.
Oh no!
Sitting there, and I have been appointed to represent her. Okay, so we're walking down the hallway. I mean, my heart, I instantly start sweating, and my heart is racing. I'm like, what are the chances? Owensboro has 70,000 people, that the girl that I danced in a manner not becoming that would satisfy my grandma, that the movie's been named after, that she would be my first court-appointed client. All right? What are the chances? Think about that.
That's called fate.
Think about that. You're talking about a horror story in preparation.
Right.
This is a horror story for a young lawyer. I mean, I'm thinking immediately, oh, my God, I'm going to get disbarred. I'm going to have sanctions against me, Rule 11, right? Yeah, it can't be. But anyway, I'm like, oh, my gosh. And so we're walking down the hall, and she starts in. She goes, I was so excited to see that you were the attorney that was appointed to represent me. And I immediately go into denial. I go, what are you talking about?
Oh, no.
And she goes, and about this time, we're coming into our office, and I'm showing her where she can sit down. I'm coming into my office.
Right.
And she goes, don't you remember me? She goes, we danced together at McDuffie's. And I was like, no, I think you got the wrong guy. And then it was cool as a cucumber, man. I was like, no, I think you. She goes, oh no, she's like, she's gonna pull out Exhibit A, right? And you know where this is going.
Oh yeah,
right.
Oh yeah,
right. She goes.
She has evidence.
She does, and it's pretty strong evidence. She says, "Don't you remember you gave me your?" And she puts it up toward my face. Gave me your card, and I looked at her and I was like, I'm sorry, that must have been another one of my clients gave you my card. I say, I'm
dead to rights.
I go,
still
yeah,
deny
I'm still denying. I'm like, hey, I was like, where did you get that card anyway? And she was like, at McDuffie's. I said, what is McDuffie's? And I mean, I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I just have no clue what you're talking about. So throughout the life of her case, which lasted 4 or 5 months, okay, during that time, I was probably with her either over at court or in my office, like, I don't know, half dozen, maybe 8 times. And every time we were together, she would mention our experience at McDuffie's, and to which I would continually deny, right? But there were some times when she would drop these little hints, like, I know you're messing with me and that you remember this.
Did she ever get angry?
No, she never really did, but she would just be like,
she was disappointed.
She was disappointed. She thought that, I don't know what she thought. I don't even want to go there. But I can tell you that I learned a big lesson. I learned a very big lesson.
Don't go to McDuffie's.
No, 3 lessons. I learned that you got to be careful who you give business cards to, including think about the people that you allow to have business cards that represent your firm. I mean, it could have been disaster, right? I mean, this is terrible. I could have lost my job. I mean, you know what? I'm glad that happened to me within a couple weeks of my beginning my career, because it really put a check in me. Hey, I brought me down to earth really quick about how bad things can happen.
In the first episode, we talked a bit about conflict of interest. Even though it was court appointed, could you have gone to whoever it was that appoints you to do these things and say, "Look, I have a conflict of interest because of my
conflict." What was my conflict? I'm going to go to the judge and say, Judge, I can't represent her because I dirty danced with her at McDuffie's.
Yes.
No, you're not going to do that, because then it's just like, wait, what are you
doing in your
what
personal life?
What are you doing in your personal life that you can't keep control of, that would not allow you to represent somebody in an abuse case, the mother who's, I mean, look, there is nothing good about the entire story.
Well, it wasn't really like you didn't do anything wrong, though. It was just highly awkward.
It's awkward, and it just didn't feel right.
Well, it probably made it worse that she kept bringing it up.
She did. She kept bringing it up the whole time and be like, you're the guy that danced with me, like that. And I was like, I wish you'd stop talking like that.
You're like, I don't know.
I don't how did you get my card? That's how that was the approach I took.
You should have said, look, I've got an evil twin.
No,
out there.
That sounded too cheesy, man. It was just deny. It was like, I'm not going to ever admit it. She may have my card, but those things get passed around. Hey, I know a good lawyer. Here it is. I don't know how you got my card. And that sure as heck wasn't at McDuffie's with me dancing with you, even though I recognized you the second I walked out my door.
You're like, look, I only frequent the boiler room.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah. A step up in class there. Right. Okay. So anyway, that's a pretty bad story. But the other thing we talked about, and this has kind of amazed you. You've been very curious about this. I mentioned to you one time that my first job practicing law here in Owensboro, our office was in an old funeral home, right? And so why does that pique your curiosity there, Peach?
Well, I think it probably has a lot to do with I am very interested in the paranormal. And do you believe in ghosts? Are you a believer?
Is that what paranormal means?
Yeah.
I know you're
a religious person, so you believe in ethereal beings and things.
Oh, absolutely.
So do you believe in spirits and souls?
I don't think that I would say that I would rule that out. I will say that I I have never really had an encounter that I would say was super, like some supernatural or
Right.
super,
Okay. Fair enough.
But I would tell you that if something happened that couldn't be explained, I would not, in my mind, immediately say, "Well, that can't be a ghost." I would say, "Well, that's very plausible," you know.
Right.
So I know that sounds like a political answer and one that won't get me in trouble here on our podcast.
Right.
But,
No, I
but
think
no.
I think it's a solid
It does
answer.
amaze me. I think that some of the hokey pokey stuff they do on TV, like where
Oh, yeah,
there's somebody back there clanging things together and go, "Oh, did you hear that? It had to be a ghost."
Yeah,
I think that,
yeah.
But is there a reason for spirits and things like that? And I could be persuaded.
See, in my opinion, I know we're kind of going off on a bit of a tangent, but I think it's just science we haven't explained yet, and it doesn't necessarily have to be paranormal science in the sense that it's actual, someone's soul or just energy from someone who's deceased. I very much think it could also be, maybe a majority of the populace suffers from some kind of temporary schizophrenia because, people with schizophrenia, they suffer from hearing things and seeing hallucinations and stuff like that. So I don't put it past our own brains to even, for 1 second kind of flip that switch and suddenly we're hearing things or seeing things that aren't actually there. So we say, "Oh, well, I've seen a ghost," because I've seen and experienced a lot of paranormal things throughout my life that I can't explain. I've seen, and I know this sounds crazy, but I've seen like full body apparitions.
Okay.
I actually saw one at the foot of my bed when I was about probably around 8 or 9 years old. And it floated off the ground and up into the ceiling. And I vividly remember this.
But how do you know it wasn't a dream?
Because I was fully awake at that point. Like, I can remember being awake because something awoke me.
Okay.
And I mean, I can remember details. I can remember what I was seeing. And I have dreams that I remember, but I know they were dreams and I wasn't awake because immediately following the situation with whatever it was that I saw, I got up and went into my mom's room, and it wasn't something that happened as I was coming out of sleep. Like, I was fully awake. I looked over at my brother because we shared a room at the time. I was like, it happened over a period of probably a minute and a half, something.
Wow.
So, and it was odd, and I don't know who the person was. I can tell you what they were wearing. It was a Caucasian male. He was wearing one of those red, lumberjack kind of flannel shirts.
Okay.
And it looked like he was putting an earring on. And he wasn't. Yeah, it was weird. He had both of his hands up by his ear and he was looking at me. He was wearing jeans and brown boots. And he was standing right outside my door, in the hallway. And when I woke up, I thought it was my stepdad. So I asked him, what are you doing? And he didn't say anything. He just had his hands up, by his ear, moving his hand around. And then he looks at me and he kind of smiles. And then all of a sudden he floats off the floor and goes up into the ceiling. And I sat up in bed and it was like a bad special effect in a movie. I could see
now, were
his...
you on, in all fairness,
right?
Were
And
you
I
on
know
any
how this.
medicine?
No.
Were you medicated at that time? Had you been...
This was before my anxiety issues as a kid, where I had to see a child therapist for a year.
I'm not implying. This is amazing. This is amazing. Okay,
right. But I know how that sounds. So anyway, so I am a believer of the paranormal.
Okay, so when I tell you, hey. I practiced law for the first 8 years of my career in this funeral home. That gets your attention.
Absolutely.
All right.
Because it deals directly with
let me
potential
tell you
paranormal
the closest
experiences.
I've ever come to believing in paranormal. Okay.
Okay.
The technology for copy machines has advanced through the years, as you may expect. With technology, I mean, they can do. You can practically launch the space shuttle from our machine in there, right? I mean, it's amazing. But so one of the things with old mimeograph or copy machines is that they'd have to have a period of warming up. Okay, so you used to go up to the machine and have to push the power button or the home button, and it would take a minute for it to warm up so that
Right.
once it was warm, it could then make copies. Okay.
Kind of like old modems where you had to, when
Right.
you logged
Yeah,
in,
it
there
took
was a
forever to get
period
going.
of transition.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
So this thing has to warm up. So somebody thought of this great idea that if we could create some type of a sensor that would tell the machine, hey, there's somebody getting ready to use you. You need to wake up. Okay. So we had purchased, or the law firm had purchased, this new technology machine that would kick on when it sent somebody around, and so it would start the warming up process. Okay.
Right.
And we I didn't know about it. I didn't know that was a thing. All right. And so at this spooky law firm that used to be, I'm not kidding, you go down this ramp. Well, the reason it's a ramp and not steps is because they would wheel bodies in and out of there, right?
Right.
And then your next level would go down another ramp. Well, when you went down the second ramp, you were into the basement of this place, all right? And the very first thing in front of you was where the copy machine sat, and then there was like this dark room. If you didn't have a light on it, over to the right, that was the mail room, okay? And then you went down this dark hallway, and to the right was like the dungeon area with all the boiler room and stuff, and they kept files in there. And then to the left,
And Freddy Krueger.
yes, and to the left was the embalming room, and it still had the table, the drains, the sinks. It had everything in it. Okay.
So it had like the metal table you
Yes,
prepare
and-
the bodies on?
Right, and what we turned that into, or what they had turned that into here at this law firm, was a gigantic workspace where they would work on exhibits and big flow charts and things like that,
Right.
timelines. That was before. I mean, we had a poster maker
Right.
back there, and
Better than a
laminating-
break room, I
But
guess.
so that was it's better than putting the But so that was all the way back in the back, and you could still see where the chemicals, every time we go down the drain, it stained the brick in there. Okay.
Yikes.
And it had a smell.
Wow.
The whole building had this smell to it. I can't explain it. So one night I was there working late. We were preparing for a trial in federal court, and I was supposed to be working on some exhibits, and so I had organized them upstairs, but I needed to go downstairs to start putting them together in the embalming room. Okay. I'm all by myself. It's about 11:30 at night. It's raining outside. All right. And
Of course.
I go down. Right. And I go down the ramps, and when I come around the corner, copy machine goes boom. It kicks on, and the lights come on. I screamed like a little girl. Now imagine that you've never seen this technology before. This machine is totally dormant, and you come around in a dark room, and it pops on
yeah.
the second you walk in there. If ever I was going to believe in paranormal activity, my mind comprehended the idea perfectly at that time.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure your flight or fight kicked in.
Oh, I was convinced it was over. It was, and so I was shaking. I was shaking as I walked back, and I was like looking for the light switch to turn on, and turn the light switch on and walk back into that embalming room and worked, and I was constantly like looking over my shoulders and things like that. I can't say that anything else weird. I mean, and that wasn't weird once I understood what it was, because I told a couple people about it, and they explained it. Well, it's got a sensor in it, and
Right.
that kind of thing. But do you know, I worked a lot of, and this is one of the reasons. Like I don't know why spirits would come back to a funeral home, because the body only passes through there briefly. You would think, so
Right.
probably no reason. It's probably the safest place to be.
Right. At that point, it would just be a shell is the idea, because usually when if
Right.
you think ghost, you think the spirit is stuck where someone actually
died,
perished. Right.
Exactly. So, I worked there many late nights, and while you would hear a sound, it was an old place, and I never had anything happen to me where things slid around or lights would come on.
That's
things
unfortunate.
like that, but I can tell you. But I can tell you that I would have accepted it if it happened, and not. I would have said, okay, then that's a ghost, right? Because the place was flat out spooky. How would you have been able? Would you have been able to work at that location and done so without worry? Would that have been too much for you?
Well, first of all, in the situation you just described with the copier coming on, I would have pooped. That's what would have happened. Then I would have went home. I would have been done for the evening. Yes, I I can work in places like that because, I mean, I've talked to, I can't remember who it was, but I talked to someone here who said that they had some kind of it's the guy who works on the building. He just fixed the stairs out here.
Oh, flip-flops.
Yeah. Yes, him.
Is
Josh? Is his name Josh?
John.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we just the flip-flops because he is the only construction worker I've ever known that wears flip-flops on all jobs. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, he must delegate work real well. But go ahead.
You're gonna have to get him some steel-toed flip-flops. I was talking to John. He is the one who, and I don't know how good of a source he is, but he is a super nice guy though. But he and I had a conversation, and he said that when he's been in here before, when no one's, I guess when he's been working on stuff in the building, he claims to have had some things happen while he was here in this building.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, no, we had the animal that was living in the
right,
in
and
the
you know
ceiling.
it's well, I want to say he said he heard one night he was up here and he heard someone come up the stairs from the front of the building, and he stood in the hallway waiting to see like who it was because he thought someone had come into the building to, I guess, get something in one of the offices up here. And he said that he heard the footsteps come up the stairs, and then there was nothing else.
Well, I bring my kids here, and we buy Nerf guns. You know, shoot
I remember,
the Nerf bullets,
you talking
and we'll
about
have
that.
like 8 of us, and we turn off all the lights in the office, and we hide and we ambush each other with Nerf guns. If you get shot, if you get shot 5 times, you're done,
Right.
So we get people sneaking around and shooting each other with these Nerf guns. When you flip on all the lights eventually, there's like hundreds of Nerf bullets laying through the entire office.
I remember you talking about it because we were finding Nerf bullets.
Yeah, and one night we lost a chair down the stairs. I mean, it went. Yeah, a child was using a chair as sort of a shield and pushed it up one step too close to the top stairs, and the chair went all the way down the stairs in the front.
I've been here at night and I've never
had
experienced.
anything. Me either. Not here. I haven't. But at the other place, if it would have happened, that's probably, I would have said, oh, yeah, ghost, because it's set up perfect for it.
Yeah. See, I'm more afraid of like flesh and blood killers than I am of ghosts.
Right.
Typically,
Which is why you don't like to turn around on farms out in the middle of the country.
Yeah, I'd rather be where I'm found very quickly.
Yes.
As opposed
We've
to
established
but
right.
But yeah, so I tend, if I hear something that I don't know, I can't explain it, I tend to think it's someone coming to murder me as opposed to like a ghost trying to scare me.
Right. Okay. Well, look, I hope that
okay.
I hope that with Halloween, everybody's safe, checks their candy.
Yes.
Takes their kids only during reasonable hours, doesn't have them out too late, and any foul play, call the police. Let's make it a safe.
It's on
Halloween.
Thursday this year.
That's right. So maybe that'll dampen the hooligans. And let me say this real quick. Looking ahead, we have some exciting episodes coming up. We're going to talk about Spider Lady, and we're going to talk about you're winning a big prize in conjunction with a wrongful death discussion of wrongful death.
Yep.
And also we're going to talk a little bit about some fight stories. So all of this in the conjunction of Lite, right? Episodes 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, and 2.4 will be coming up. Keep a lookout for those. Hey, this is Travis Holtrey, Foreman Watson Holtrey for Lite. But before...
Yes, I was getting ready to say, we can't leave yet.
Okay, because you have prepared 4 weeks in advance for Ask the Expert. I apologize, PJ. Go ahead and throw your question
your
on
apology.
Me. Throw your question on me.
Okay, so this isn't so much film terminology as it's just random trivia, but it's perfect for the season.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. What is, and I left a word out, so I'm going to go ahead and throw it in there. What is the highest grossing independent horror film of all time? It's actually still considered also the highest grossing independent film of all time, but I'll give you an extra clue. It was a horror film.
Halloween.
You got it.
Bam!
You got it.
I'm the first person to answer.
Yep.
Ask the Expert.
It only took 4 episodes.
What do I win?
You earn my respect.
There you go.
All right. Who directed
I have
Halloween?
no clue. Jim Smith.
Not true.
Okay.
John Carpenter
I
directed
know it was a common
1978.
name. John, Jim,
Yeah.
Bob.
So it's close.
Okay.
But yeah,
right.
so that's it. Now, of course, that was, if you look at inflation, it was kind of undone by the Blair Witch Project that came out in 1999. But it's still because they spent just under $300,000 making it.
Does it motivate you?
Yeah, it does actually. I mean, because you never know, because like when Carpenter and his crew, Deborah Hill and all them, and Tommy Lee Wallace, when they were making this movie, they were just making a movie because they got an opportunity to do it,
right?
And they found a producer. He paid. It was actually because of Donald Pleasance coming on. It was like $330,000, but the actual budget of the film was just under $300,000 because before Donald Pleasance came on, but when it went to the box office, it grossed like $78 million.
Wow.
So, yeah, and they had absolutely no idea that was going to happen. That tends to be the case. So yeah, it's definitely a motivating factor.
How many? I don't know. How many have there been since?
11. There's been 11 Halloween films. The third one didn't have Michael Myers in it, and then of course there's the 2 Rob Zombie remakes,
right.
And then there's the sequel reboot one that just came out last year, and now there's 2 more now that they're shooting back to back.
What's the biggest moneymaker of them? Do you know that?
Which one made the most amount of money? I mean, technically the first one did.
Isn't that amazing?
But I know the fourth and the fourth one. Because the third one did well, but it really upset a lot of people because it didn't have Michael Myers in it. They were trying to go in the direction of like doing anthology films that just took place around Halloween. That was their direction, but it didn't work out. So they were like, all right, we got to get back to bringing Michael Myers back. So they did part 4, and it made a ton of money. Then they did part 5, didn't really do so well, and it actually the franchise languished until they made H2O. But yeah, I mean, now by the time the next 2 films, which is Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends, which it's never going to end, there will be 13 movies total.
All because of
one that just was just a group of people saying, "Hey, let's make this movie," and here they are, 40 years later.
That's great.
Yeah.
Hey, we've been discussing Halloween. Just hope everybody stays safe.
Yes.
All right, Lite out. Next episode.
Happy Halloween.
This case should never have come to trial.
I don't think it's fair to call my clients frauds. Because one time I turned into a dog and they helped me. Thank you.
Your Honor, we would like to withdraw our plea of not guilty and enter a plea of guilty.
This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery of a sham, of a mockery of a travesty of 2 mockeries of a sham.
If we are to have faith in justice, we need only to believe in ourselves.
And the truth shall set you free!
How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Oh, guilty, but with a real good excuse.
I think the truth will come forth.
You can't handle the truth!